Before you drive the all-new Nissan Rogue, you gotta ask yourself, how rogue are you gonna go? We talking be one with nature in the desert rogue? Go snowshoeing in Alaska rogue? Or take the long way home just because kind of rogue? Just a question, but with 5 available drive modes, you're sure to find the answer.
Go rogue in the all-new, fiercely reimagined 2021 Nissan Rogue, now with the most standard safety features in its class. See Owner's Manual for important safety information. Auto Pacific segmentation. 2021 Nissan Rogue versus latest in market competitors. Base models compared.
Who are you texting?
My therapist.
You text with your therapist?
Text, video chat, call. Yep.
That sounds too easy. How did you find her?
I just went to betterhelp.com/save. She's a licensed therapist and it's all online. I connect when it's convenient for me and don't waste time driving anywhere. Plus, it's affordable.
I wonder if I should try it.
It's great to talk to someone in confidence. She's helped me sort out quite a few things. And right now you save 10% off the first month when you go through betterhelp.com/save.
betterhelp.com/save. Got it.
Welcome to the 319th episode of the Reading and Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Rutherford. Stay tuned for my interview with romance novelist Pamela Fernandes. Fernandes' novels include In Other Words and many other novels. Stay tuned for the interview. Welcome back to the Reading and Writing Podcast. My guest today is Pamela Fernandes, a romance novel author. Fernandes' latest novel is In Other Words. Fernandes' short fiction has also been published in several anthologies, including Where the Stars Rise, Asian Science Fiction and Fantasy. Pamela, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Great. Well, can you read a few pages from your new novel, In Other Words?
Sure. So, Chapter 1. Trish Holt was about 6 years old when her father happily announced 2 things. She'd got a new baby brother and she'd finally become an American citizen. More specifically, she was now an official member of the Holt family. Her new name, Trish, would be permanent, forever, and for the rest of her life she would be reminded how grateful she should be for the privileged life other Korean orphans could only hope for. The weight of these announcements didn't make Trish any different from the usual quiet child she had come to be. It turned her into quite the opposite. She'd become even more isolated, closed. The declaration that she was somehow different made it difficult in this harborside town along the New England coast. It was something out of her hands. As a child of 6, she'd come to understand that being different wasn't necessarily a good thing. And when you don't want to fight anyone, you simply join them. And she tried to blend in without highlighting her differences. She just wanted to fit in. The problem was if you have blonde-haired parents with translucent skin and blue eyes, while you have dark hair and yellow skin, you already stand out. And she didn't know real parents and kids had matching hair and eyes until a classmate in school told her so. That's when she knew she was different. That's it.
Okay, great. Well, if someone listening hasn't heard about your novel, In Other Words, yet, how would you describe the novel?
Well, I would describe it as a multicultural romance that is focused on a Korean orphan who's now kind of been accepted into the American family, and how she's struggling with her identity, and then her concept of love changes because of this love that she missed as an adopted child.
And do you remember the original idea that led you to write In Other Words?
Yeah, originally I picked a theme. The theme was adoption, and quite frankly, I didn't know a lot about it. But the more I read about, there are forums online, there are groups online, and the more I read, the more I realized that this was a much bigger issue than we think. I mean, my perception was that once you're adopted, you're always happy because you're in a family, you're in a home. That's not always the case, and so that's where I started researching, and the idea, of this romance came up.
And so what was your path to publication before you published your first novel? Had you always wanted to be a writer?
Yeah, I always wanted to write fiction, but somehow I was sucked into doing medical writing and, writing for work, writing for research, and it never really took off. In 2013, I won a competition, and that was a romance competition for Asian romance. And that's where I started. And now 7 years later, I've managed to be published with smaller presses and even gone on to write women's fiction. So it's been a very long but different journey, starting from small competitions to the bigger houses.
And so when you start thinking about a new novel, do you tend to focus on one idea, or are you choosing from a variety of ideas before you decide on one to focus on?
Well, I think when you write romance, people usually pick a trope and then they go on from there. I usually pick a theme because I feel like there's no point in writing a standard, cookie cutter romance. We all know A meets B, A falls in love with B, and then in the end, A and B are together. But to give the book and the characters some real life, some real meat, there has to be a theme that runs through the entire book. And so I usually start off with a theme, and like in this case was adoption, and then start developing everything from there.
And so what is your writing process like once you have that idea and that theme in your mind? Do you outline and plan your novel extensively, or do you write more organically?
Well, I usually, when I started, I used to first just, go wherever the story took me. And I find that that wastes a lot of time. And I feel like also that sometimes you end up writing like 10,000 words, but then they're really not helpful for the story. So now I kind of outline, I use one of J.K. Rowling's methods where she has a simple page. She just has a sheet where she has two columns. So she's got one column where the primary plot is happening, and the second column has a secondary plot happening. And then you just marry the two in each chapter, and that's how you keep the story going. So when I start the story now, I usually have a final word count in mind, and then I have that page with me all the time, the primary and the secondary, and I keep.
The holidays are here, and with giftcards.com, it's easy to send the perfect gift. From gamers and foodies to fashion and beauty lovers, there's a great gift card option for everyone on your list. Or surprise them with the specially curated Holiday Favorites e-gift card. Redeemable at Lululemon, Grubhub, Ulta, Wayfair, Macy's, Lowe's, and Barnes & Noble. Your lucky loved one can pick their favorite athleisure, beauty products, home decor, and entertainment, all with one convenient gift. Holiday Favorites cards are delivered near instantly via email and can be used both in-store and online, making them both easy to send and spend. They contain no fees and never expire, making it a perfect gift you can't go wrong with. Start gifting today at www.giftcards.com/multi. Happy holidays from giftcards.com.
Looking at that to see where the story is going, because otherwise you just keep writing and writing and writing, and then you have to chop it off later. So it's just a waste of time. Yeah.
And so you just explained how your writing has changed somewhat in terms of going from a more organic to a little more structured in terms of how you're writing. Have you noticed any other changes in your writing process from novel to novel?
I've noticed that if you do it more often, it tends to come more organically. Earlier, there would be days where you don't feel like writing. I mean, it would happen to me a lot that I know I don't feel like writing, or I don't want to, the ideas just don't come. But if you have a structure like that in place, then, you know where the story is going, you know what's going to happen, you know what you want to do or achieve, at least for that 3,000 words, you know what you plan to do. So that has changed. And secondly, I can write more as a result of that. I can do more books per year. And with the current market shifting, people are putting out books every month. So it's getting harder. And so you can write more if you just organize better. And I think I've gotten better at that, and I'm writing more according to that.
So have you started thinking about, or have you started writing your next novel?
Yeah, I actually did this. This pandemic period has kind of helped me prioritize all the writing work. I did 4 different manuscripts in the last 45 days.
Wow.
So yeah, I managed to just have the ideas, get the plots done, and then started banging out the words, because otherwise you just tend to waste time. And I wanted to make a good use of my good use of all the hours I had. So I let my imagination go and started writing. Yeah.
Great. Well, what advice would you have for aspiring writers who may be listening and are working and writing their own stories or novels?
I would say believe in your own book, the one that you want to write. And I feel like today, even if you listen to many author podcasts, and there's always somebody who comes and says, this is the market right now, you need to write this to the market. And even the host sometimes will say, well, yeah, I think I need to write this book, just so that we can sell more and we can go to whatever and sell it like this and sell it like that. But I think you need to believe in your own book and write the book you want to write, the one that you believe in, because you'll only be able to effectively sell something that you yourself believe in. So I would say stop worrying about the market and just focus on your book.
And so what books, fiction or nonfiction, have you read recently that made an impression on you and that you would recommend?
Well, I recently read a debut novel by Josie Silver. It's called One Day in December. Beautiful book, beautiful romance, and it's a romance that goes over 10 years. And the most beautiful part of the book is they share just one kiss in the entire book, but just the meeting of the eyes, the small moments, the way they've been captured, it's just beautiful. And I thought, since I write romance like that, I thought, where are all the other authors who are writing books like these? And she's one of them. I mean, absolutely beautiful romance. I read, I've actually been reading Donna Tartt's The Goldfinch. It was a Pulitzer winner in 2014. And I'm struggling to get through that book because each sentence has 13 commas. And by the time the sentence is over, I don't know what she was talking about in the first place. So, I have had to reread that book a number of times, but hey, it won a Pulitzer.
Yeah, exactly. So where can people find you online if they'd like to learn more about you and your books?
Well, my books are online with most big publishers. I am at PamelaQFernandes.com. That's my website, where I put out all the information about my books, podcast, everything. So if you want any of the books, they're usually on most booksellers. Yeah, they're available everywhere.
Great. And what's the name of your podcast?
It's the Christian Circle podcast. That's mainly geared towards my nonfiction writing. Yeah.
And so what nonfiction writing do you do?
Well, I usually write Christian nonfiction based on my own Christian journey, and then what my friends or family and, the many people that I interact with, because we're part of a very big community, and what we are learning on this journey. So my first was for the unemployed Christian, and then it was for the single Christian, and now we're doing a book. I think hopefully this year we should have it out. It's on the grieving Christian. And
so how is it for you going from writing a romance or writing a novel to nonfiction?
The one thing I think is, when you write fiction, you tend to bleed a little of yourself, but then it's not all you. Whereas when you're writing nonfiction, you have to get very real with your own emotions, with what you're going through, your experiences. And I feel like there's a lot more research that is required. Whereas in fiction, you can make anything up and no one's going to say anything to you. Whereas in nonfiction, you need to fact check everything you say in a book. I mean, every line, every statistic, every quote has to be checked and rechecked. And so it's a different, more strenuous form of writing.
Great. Well, again, we've been speaking with Pamela Fernandes, author of In Other Words. You can go grab a copy of the ebook now. Pamela, thanks for doing this interview.
Thank you, Jeff, for having me.
Great.
Before you drive the all-new Nissan Rogue, you gotta ask yourself, how rogue are you gonna go? We talking be one with nature in the desert rogue? Go snowshoeing in Alaska rogue? Or take the long way home just because kind of rogue? Just a question, but with 5 available drive modes, you're sure to find the answer.
Go rogue in the all-new, fiercely reimagined 2021 Nissan Rogue, now with the most standard safety features in its class. See Owner's Manual for important safety information. Auto Pacific segmentation. 2021 Nissan Rogue versus latest in market competitors. Base models compared.